Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to After the Roll, The Legend of Vox Machina, Season 1, Episode 3, The Feast of Realms. We are your hosts, breaking down Episode 3 of this fantastic show. How are you doing, my co-hosts?
How's everyone doing today? Excellently. Billy, I have a quick question for you. How many times did you watch it?
Today or...
Okay, in general.
Okay. I think I've watched this episode somewhere between 5 and 7 times.
Now he's just trying.
Yeah. No, okay. I thought it was impressive that I got 3 watches out of this.
It's because
never mind.
The episodes are so quick that I will watch the entire first whenever I sit down and watch them. So because we've had 3 weeks of this, I've had 3 weeks of watching episode 3 plus my viewing for this.
So you're rewatching, like the Wheel of Time, you're rewatching everything from start to finish. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like the books. The books, I should say.
Just like the books, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I watched it 3 times today specifically. I was off work, so I indulged.
Nice.
Nice.
I watched it twice today.
Yeah, I watched it twice today as well. I enjoyed it. And I have to say, my forecast was right with my gripe and complaint about episode 1, where I was like, they're not giving us enough Percy backstory, but I'm sure that's going to happen somewhere in the future. Here we go.
Yeah, it was hard not to say anything, but
I figured it was coming. I didn't realize they're going to have an entire episode based on his backstory, but I knew that they were going to dig in, and that was the thing. Like I that was one of my thoughts of it, was the fact that he was like kind of conspicuously left out. I figured that there was going to be a bigger tie-in for his storyline somewhere down the road, and they did, which is fantabulous. So let's jump into it. What are overall thoughts for this episode?
I mean, I'll lay it out on the hello. I'll lay it out on the
cat
the table now.
Cat tax in front of the camera.
Well, there's a tail tip.
Yeah, there we go.
This is so what this episode takes and gives us is my favorite part of actual campaign 1. So this episode was one of the ones that I was looking forward to the most forever, and it didn't disappoint me. I am so excited to hear what you guys thought, because okay, can you stop moving my camera?
The cat says that he is now your cameraman, and clearly it just needs to be a little over.
And I've been waiting for weeks now for you guys to see this one so I could hear your thoughts on it. So I'm very excited for tonight.
It definitely was a step up. It was a fantastic episode, and it took the tension, the storyline, everything, and they just ramped it to an entirely new level. The fact that they went from battling a dragon, which was a pretty big jump. Like when you go with the dragon off the jump, you need to go big after that. And I was curious how they were going to do it. I think they did a fantastic job. And Carolyn, you're absolutely right. The PTSD they did in this episode, that was one of my biggest notes.
It was amazingly well done.
This was freaking fantastic. And they've done it through so many other episodes, like even these other 2 episodes with Vex and Vax, and with some like all these other things that are happening. It's just the mental health aspect of this, I have to give massive props to them, because they've been doing an amazing job at handling it delicately.
They're really hitting it out of the park, honestly, when it comes to handling mental health and showing them in very different ways, because you had like Keyleth's panic attack in episode 1 of her doing the holy shit, that's a dragon, we're all gonna die. And then you see, the switch from watching her having panic attacks and all of those kinds of issues down over to Percy and his trauma, and him just being quiet and controlled until a certain someone is amazing and just is like, hi, that's your PTSD. How about I just poke it a lot here?
That's one of the other notes that I have here is constant goading and prodding and like taunting of Percy. Like they do
Yes.
such for the evil, and that's what I like about the enemies. That bad folks in this one, they're not coming out like the evil, like ha ha ha, I'm an evil one. They're just like nasty people. They know what they're doing, and they're so meticulous and detailed and focused on it. It's subtle little jabs, like death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing, unless they're actually killing you. Which is
Even then, it was still quite a lot of death by 1,000 cuts.
for Grog, especially.
Yeah. I want that sword.
Right?
That was
I
amazing.
want it. I want it badly.
I meant to bring in one of my blades tonight, and it's in the other room. I forgot. Like, if people really want it, I can go grab it, but I forgot to grab it.
Nah, you're comfy. I'll hold you to it for the next episode.
Yeah, for the
then.
next one.
Yeah.
It'll be it. It's a wicked-looking blade with bleeders and letters and everything on it, and it's like this long and just looks frightening.
Very nice.
So then, on a different end, a little bit, I had a note directed at Billy because of Scanlan.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I've heard a few theater stories from Carowin.
Sure.
Scanlan seems like he's the quintessential theater major.
Yeah.
And I started poking and prodding and asking her about this, and whether or not like it was accurate, the statement that I was getting from this of him being about the quintessential. So I was poking at you. I'm gonna ask if that's kind of the music major, theater major party. But then I was also informed that because I dragged Carowin into this, that I need to have the disclaimer that Scarecrow never took Dorothy to any parties where songs about anal beads were being sung with rainbow codpieces being thrust about.
So yes, it very much embodies what you think the typical like theater major backstage situation kind of thing is, and sometimes that's very true. But I've had plenty of experiences where it was very much on the up and up, and everyone was very professional. And actually, Wizard of Oz is one of those times that I would say there weren't a whole lot of shenanigans going on with the adults.
Well, now I'm gonna have to poke her about some more stories about Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
I was going to say, that's something that, I don't know if I've mentioned this on stream before or not, but my education background is marketing and arts, and I also studied theater in university.
Oh, wow. There we go.
Yeah, it's at the University of Ottawa. I studied theater, and I was almost naked on stage at one point, but I was not. So just went
We
down
have
my
more Hot
boxers.
Scribe.
What was that?
We have more Hot Scribe going on here.
Apparently.
I hear.
Just went down to the boxers. Last minute script change. I didn't get completely naked on stage, but I was there for it. I was lined up. I was ready to go. And
Okay, so Scanlan is 100% just showcasing theater people.
yeah,
Yeah,
Beautifully.
he's like if you took the most theaterist of a theater person, he would be your, pillar of virtue right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just distilled theater person in gnome form.
Pure.
Well,
He's pure.
I mean, you have to be, right? Because if you're going to do that kind of thing, you're going to get up on stage and be in front of someone. You have to be like a no holds barred. Just get out there, and you're either going to get the laugh or you're going to flop, and that's all it is. And if you're second guessing yourself, you're not.
Yeah.
This is why I'll never do theater.
You can't have inhibitions if you're going to put yourself out like that, because then you'll just drive yourself nuts worrying about it.
Yeah.
So a personal story of mine, I did the Rocky Horror Show.
Oh, nice.
Which is the stage version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the costumes are interesting, and the themes
A little
are
racy.
fun. Yeah. So I had to go out and buy a corset that fit me, and undies that fit me, sexy undies that fit me. And it was not an experience that I had ever done before. But you know what? Me and Frankenfurter went to Vicky's and had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Can't have inhibitions.
No kidding.
Yeah. That is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Scanlan certainly had few inhibitions with that song and the pies or cakes.
Yeah.
The cream. The cream. We'll just go with that.
Cakes and the cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's okay. Well, let's just say it. There were cream pies that he was smearing across his face. So,
face, chest, crotch, everything.
but I absolutely love that cod piece though. Like, and that's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
did it
the
actually
rainbow
light
cod.
up, or is that just like his magic coming out? Like, did he have like little LEDs? Like, just the rainbow that came off that was just gorgeous.
Was glorious.
I assume it's his magic that's doing it, but I mean, party ball cod piece might be a thing of the future. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. I loved that when they all arrived at the castle, that it was just like codpiece. And you just knew that it's like, this is coming back in a big way at some point. A big way.
Exactly. He does seem the type to put LEDs on it. That is definitely
Magical LEDs. He would have picked those up at Gilmore's. Guaranteed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's I can't wait to see more Gilmore. So they did open up with the background of Percy, which was pretty heart-wrenching to watch.
Yes, that was the emotion.
Yeah, and there was a lot of
I was just excited.
I was just gonna say, LJ, were you excited?
I was really excited. It just got to a point of just being like, we're getting the baddies. We're getting the bad baddies. This is excellent.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not just a dragon that's going and burning stuff up. It's actually like,
Yeah.
I am here.
We get
I am messed up.
malicious, malignant people that are just beautiful. It makes me happy.
And they did so many subtle things with that. Like just in the opening scene with him running, and then you see her magic flowing after him, like chasing him away. But also the other thing I noticed in my second viewing through was when she and Silius are walking down the hall after dinner. It's a very quick glimpse, but if you watch it and don't pay attention to what they're talking about and look in the mirror, you see that Silius isn't reflected in the mirror.
Silas doesn't.
Silas isn't reflected in the mirror. It's just
There's
her.
a second time that happens. I don't know if you caught it.
In the water, or
In the water, yeah.
I caught neither time because I was distracted by pretty.
Same.
There were shiny, pretty evil people being shiny, pretty evil people,
And-
and I was happy.
they were shiny, pretty evil people. I gotta say it. Like the artwork in this is amazing, and the way that they draw the characters, and like, it's just.
So
Unbelievable.
Silas's character design legitimately does remind me a little bit of the villain from the old Gargoyles
Yes.
show.
Interesting. Yeah, okay.
And that also made me a little excited because he was an excellent villain in that one. And then I was also so thrilled about the fact that it's Azula's voice actress who plays Delilah. And that also made me really happy because she's such an incredible character that then you have like the voice actress who is going to do just an amazing job. And yeah.
I had a note about that because Grey Griffin is the voice actress that does Delilah. And I looked up her filmography, and it is hilarious.
It is amazing. So like I had to stop looking through her filmography to confirm that she was Azula because I was just like, this is going to be so much faster if I just look it up through IMDb on Avatar. Because yeah, she's like evil person, voice actor for a kid show that's like toddlers, and then back to evil villain, and then back to toddlers. I'm just like, this is some whiplash when you're going from like soundstage to soundstage.
I loved it. When I started looking through it, I was just like, who is this lady and why do I love her?
Well, that's it. That's the stuff that I loved as well. Like I see it for myself. People laugh at me because I'm like, I write psychological thrillers, I write horror, I write this other really dark,
kids'
twisted
books.
stuff, and kids' stories. Because why wouldn't you write horror and children's stories? So I think it ties in together. You're pulling on emotions, right, and evoking emotions and trying to use that to pull the story together. So I think horror and children's
Well, and you
work.
need you need that balance too, I think. Like when you immerse fully in like one area so much, it can help to like get to stretch your wings a little bit in something that is a different side of the spectrum. Even if it's still like all you, it's you're getting to have something that is not quite as, like with horror, there's a lot of, a lot of dark and a lot of problems and a lot of things that are not necessarily really healthy to be constantly immersed in. So that it is good to then have that other side where you're like, I'm going to write something wholesome for kids because I honestly, I don't know that feeling, but it's
But the problem with
I
that,
guess I need to write something for my nephews at some point, so.
The problem with that, though, is you do that, you go into it thinking you're going to write that, and then you've got that little demon on your shoulder sitting there going, but what if you were to do this? And you're like, no, so, children.
Kieran can attest to the fact that I think every single time I've written a short story of any kind, somebody dies in it, or the impetus for that short story is that someone has died, which I think Billy can confirm if you read the anthology that I sent him, is that it is a literally somebody's dying, somebody died, somebody died, somebody's dying, somebody died. So I don't know how not to do that. So that's
yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, you asked for a lighthearted Baby Merrick short, and I gave you one where he's traumatized by his dead mother's ghost.
Of course. Because why wouldn't we? And hello, Psycho Sako.
Yeah.
Psycho Sako.
Psycho Sako, that's fun to say.
Welcome.
That is.
Rolls
even saying it in my head was good.
Yeah.
Hello, Psycho. So we are going to be, so people that, so some people know that we do the Scribe's Journey and things like that. We don't talk to chat because we're recording a podcast. This is a lot more laid back and relaxed. So if you have comments, if you have questions, if you have things you want to throw out there, feel free to do so. Jump in on the conversation. We may not be able to comment on it or bring it in immediately, but we will bring it in. And we've got the lovely Carowin in there to kick us if we do not. So there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was this really wicked dark opening.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know it's going to be dark opening when there's a kid sitting in their father's lap and another one laying on the floor looking through a book. You're like, oh, this is going to be bloody and violent.
Yes.
Like
everything was just like so nice and with that edge of Victorian that it was just like, oh, you guys are all gonna die except Percy, because Percy has to survive this, but everyone else is dead.
Right. It's funny too, because when you see like the Victorian-esque part of it, like in the back of your mind you're just like, nothing escapes this kind of Victoria-esque scene.
We go gothic horror.
Yeah. Well, that's it. As soon as you see that, like, this is going to be bloody. This is the happier the scene in Victorian stuff. The happier the scene, the more traumatized you're going to be by the end of that scene.
Yes, 100%.
So I loved it. It was a great way to set it up, and it was a great way to be like, yeah, if you thought Percy was sitting in the shadows and being an aloof dick, then, well, here's why.
Yeah. Well, and like I liked the little nod too of when he walks out and Vex does the hey, bad dreams, and he does the are there any other kind. As someone who has like basically only nightmares and not many other types of dreams, it was very much the like, I feel you, sir. That's apparently a bad thing. But so it wasn't just for me, it wasn't just him being like all dark and broody Batman. It was a little bit more of the poignant, no, this dude has trauma and issues, and these things are going to pay off for you. The more you watch the show, the more you hang out with him, the more you're going to see that he's not just this aloof, uptight ass. He's got a reason for having protected himself in that persona.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like, I know you really love villains. I love villains as well. I also really love anti-heroes, like Spawn that's sitting up over here over my shoulder, and Deadpool, and Frank Castle or the Punisher, where they're like, yeah, you're like, do wickedly evil stuff, but it's kind of for a good reason. And seeing this episode play out and seeing, especially with things that happened at the end, Percy went for one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Like Percy really climbed the ranks for me.
I feel like I'm in a very strange company because we got one person who is like, yeah, villains, and we got one person that's like, yeah, anti-heroes, and I'm like, I like bards.
Scanlan! So yeah, you're like when we have Changa versus Mommy moment of the
Oh, but it's beautiful though. But yeah, so that was a great interaction, and that was the other thing I wanted to talk about too, is when they have the morning scene, when they wake up, when Keyleth comes in all bright and cheery and airy. I found they did that scene so well because they're at home, they're based, they're rooted, and they're hungover and miserable, except for Keyleth, who's not a really big drinker, as we learned from the first episode, and they're still kind of divided amongst each other. They're together, but they show there's still divisions. There's not this like we're cutesy happy family kind of thing. They're still sniping and snapping at each other, and I thought again they did like we talked about in writing. You move forward with stuff, and then you fall back to your false beliefs. You fall back to your issues. You don't. It's not a linear path up. You slide backwards, right? And it's a really good example of sliding back.
Right, and speaking of that entrance, how Disney princess was that entrance?
Oh my god.
With the little animals,
the little
and the flowers
birds.
blooming.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So, I did love the fact that she is, a druid basically, and that she's a morning person, and that just fits so well with the plants and whatnot that it's like, of course she would be a morning person. Sunrise energy. I would not want to see you before coffee. But it suits her so well, and just all those little nods and character designs and Disney princessing.
Yeah, and the ball tag.
Ball tag.
Ball tag.
Which I do hope they go further into the to the complex and beautiful rules of ball tag.
I want to know more of them because I want to teach them to my nephews. Like I have a note in here saying that it's a good thing for my brother that I never considered ball tag to be a thing when I was a kid, because I would have absolutely initiated a game of ball tag and then gotten into a lot of trouble. I would have won and gotten into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But it would have been worth it.
It would have been. And of course, we also got the trinket cuddle, the obligatory trinket cuddle. But yeah, so that
because only monsters don't love trinket.
Exactly.
Carolyn.
But that's the thing. I felt like that whole episode was really fantastic, or that whole scene I thought was really great because again it showed the pushing forward, the healing back a little bit, and then it led into just really beautiful. Bears are the worst. That led into the. Yeah, like again, it shows that the end of the last episode, there's like this group of heroes and they're fantastic and they've won and they've got this thing, and then like no, there's still misfits that get drunk and they're not a cohesive unit yet.
No, not yet. But they are cohesive when it matters. Because like the first time that Percy has his like when he's hyperventilating and whatnot, and the fact that like he is clearly having a problem, and that Vex just does the hey, what's wrong? And then the entire group comes back together and is immediately doing the, oh shit, something's wrong with Percy. How do we fix this? What do we need to do? What is our plan?
Yeah.
And I loved seeing just there's a lot of stupidity between the group, especially the guys in the group, like ball tag. But that when it matters, they just all come together. Because it is if you mess with one of us, like they matter to us, therefore.
And to put an exclamation point at the end of that, you have, big burly Grog who at the end of that scene, he places his hand and gives Percy like a really heartfelt like pat on the shoulder, which is ultimately what gets Percy to lower his guard. And it's like, that's what we need more of, and we're seeing it continuously in this.
Yeah,
so
that was a note that I had as well. It was just to have this whole thing of like this almost this like we're listening moment. Not like, okay, what's going on? Like we want the dirt, we want to know what's happening. It's like, no, we're actually here to listen to what's happening, to what's like Pike said, like help us understand. Not like what the hell's happening? Like you're they could have gone aggressive with that. They could have gone like, why are you
Yeah.
being so, like, you're always, or shut up, and you never talk to us, you never explain anything to us, and gone really hard on it. And it was just like, then help us understand. And then Grog, that thing on Grog's hand on the shoulder just like melted my heart. I was like, oh my God, that is such, again, they're building such an amazing character with Grog.
Grog is like such positive masculinity in so many ways, and honestly, like all of the guys are just like such awesome, very cool, very strong masculinity that is like healthy for the most part. Like, they might not be healthy mentally, but the way that they're showcasing their masculinity has always been like, each of them are, have really excellent points for that is how you should do it. Like, by all means, that is excellent.
Yeah. And well, they even actually fully discuss that in that scene, in the breakfast scene, before they before Grog has to kick the door down.
Yeah.
Where he actually says,
fucking doors.
It's like, I bottle up my emotions. And that's where Vex is like, why bottle them up? Like, you're living life is experience, it's to feel. Why stopper your emotions? And I love the fact that they flash back to that when he actually does show his emotion at the table and screams out liar, and then Vex is like, what did we say about emotions?
Sometimes you're right and they need to be bottled. Sometimes. But I mean,
good. But and then the doors was
Doors.
Loved
Fucking
it.
doors.
Loved it. Now that like you explained that, Billy, about the fact that doors are a running gag that they cannot sort out, so much more amazing watching them do I can't do this.
It just happens all the time, and it's really subtle sometimes. Like, you wouldn't even notice, like, in that scene. It's very subtle. It's a muted voice behind a door, but there it is. Fucking door.
Except there was the one door that Vax just finessed his way in.
Vax is very good with doors.
Yeah.
Until he's not.
And belts, apparently.
We haven't gotten there yet. So the one-eyed snake visual pun.
Yeah. That came off his trousers. So it was a one-eyed trouser snake.
Okay. I think
there was also the Tiamat of the previous episode that we missed, and I'm just like, fucking visual puns.
So I believe the snake belt, the one-eyed snake belt, was actually a nod towards Solid Snake, because Matt Mercer voices characters in Metal Gear Solid.
Okay, that explains the eye patch.
Nice.
That explains the eye patch.
If you look at it, it's that kind of eye patch. It's not like a pirate eye patch.
Yeah.
That is. But
that makes sense.
We've jumped over a whole pile of stuff because of the trouser snake.
Yes.
But there's just so many
We're all
things
over the place. It's okay.
Yeah, there's so many things with this. It was such a great episode. I actually liked talking about the voice acting. Just again jumping forward a little bit when they go in to the dinner and they have to do the weapons check. That weapons check guy was so awesome. Like
poor
what did Grog say? The fuck stick, yeah. It's
poor fuck
just
stick.
such a great character. Like that one little thing, just the like blaseness of like, if you have brought weapons, you gotta drop them off, and then it was great.
Yeah.
So that is another kind of running gag that's been happening throughout this series. This isn't a table gag. That character is actually designed to look like Matt Mercer. And there is a Matt Mercer character so far in every episode.
Yes.
A Matt Mercer looking character or a Matt Mercer voiced character?
Both.
Or both. Okay.
One that looks like him that he's voicing.
Yeah.
So
if he speaks.
I love the main character that he's voicing now.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course you would. But I actually saw someone talking about that. Someone was on Twitter the other day. Someone was talking about the latest episode, and they're like, "Oh, I missed the Matt in this episode."
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna have to go back now and like look for him in every episode.
Oh, I have to go. The more I watch, the more I'm like, I have to go back and watch this all from the beginning again. Like, this is gonna be one of those things, and the more you watch it, the more you're gonna pick up. Like, they did such a brilliant job with it. But again, I love that thing of the end of episode 2. You're like, this is a cohesive group, and they're together, and maybe like they've learned a lesson, they've grown up a little bit. And then Grog kicks the door down, and there's like, no, they haven't. They're talking to Lady Allura.
Allura.
Yeah, and they're like, no, that's...
Okay, I love Grog's simplicity for his amazing statements, like, right, which foot is that? And it's the... he is like the sweet summer child. He is just the, I want to just give you a head pat so often.
Well, he's always got that earnest
adorable
look
giant
on his face.
creature. Yeah. He means it when he asks those questions.
Yeah.
He has a lot of really fun one-liners that come after things in this episode where like he's in the background and he goes, oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is very precious in this episode.
He is.
Uh,
But, and then, so they do show up to this. They drop off the weapons check. I love the fact that they show all their weapons and how that plays out.
yes.
And then they really quickly jump into the PTSD when the Briar would show up. But again, this episode, I don't know if this is a nod, because I know they have a lot of nods to a lot of different things. And I don't know if this episode had a nod to The Office, the US version of The Office. But there's one episode where Jim, as a prank, creates the ultimate guide to throwing a dinner party or a garden party for Dwight. And Dwight picks it up, and he's just got all this bullshit things on like what to do and how to throw a garden party. And one of them is, every time a guest arrives, you announce them at the top of your lungs as loud as you can and say who they are. And then there's a gag where Jim like walks in, he's like, oh, I forgot my keys, walks out and goes back and forth 5 or 6 times and gets announced each time. But just walking with that, and there's this like person announcing everybody that walks in. I'm like, is that a nod to The Office, or is that just something else that they're doing with this? But it was a beautiful scene to have. And then it gave Scanlan obviously the opportunity to.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have your herald for a royal court. So, but I did love Scanlan doing the, is that all you've got? That's just, him doing the, that's just pathetic, basically. And then just does it better, destroyers of chastity, as you do.
And the reactions from the group were amazing, from the crowd.
Yes.
And they usually are.
If you watch Allura's face through the entire episode,
yeah,
it is amazing. Her reaction shots are just great.
Between her and Lady Kima, it's so much fun to watch.
Yes.
Yeah, it was brilliant. So what else do you think about this whole part? Like before we jump into the PTSD thing, is there any other thoughts on the entrance of them all? Because again, I also talking about the cohesiveness. Or Percy's like, okay, come with me. I'll talk you like when we are in certain conversations. We're going to, or you can all just walk away.
I loved the champagne shots. Yeah. Because like Pike, like it's so easy to kind of forget that she's just as rough and tumble as the rest of them, because she has so many of those moments where she is the person who is the, guys, we got to pull together. Like we got to do this for righteousness and all of that it's really easy to forget that she was part of that bar fight. So when it's the Grog doing the, how are you supposed to get drunk off of this? And she's like, they're fancy shots, and just takes them and throws them and the, what are you looking at? And it's just like, it is amazingly beautiful to have that scene of the right. She's just as uncouth and, as the rest of them.
She's body too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And throws the glass on the ground.
Yeah, as you do, apparently.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised they didn't have a reaction to that, except for her response. Like, I guess there's an off-camera reaction where she was like, what are you looking at? But, yeah, that was great. But, yeah, that scene with the Briarwoods walking in and the PTSD for showing up with Percy, I think they did just such a great job on, like, juxtaposing their entrance, where they're just regal and just the embodiment of power, grace, and dignity as they're walking in, and everyone kind of stopping and looking, except for one, who's Percy, who was like gritting his teeth and going wild at the thought of them being there.
I loved that had he had his gun or his pepper box, he would have shot them right then and there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I love that, and that is such a a very honest like PTSD reaction of the holy crap, I never expected to see you people ever again, and I have this reflex and I'm going to use it. And that it's the that would have been mildly disruptive.
Yeah.
Slightly unfortunate for everyone had that happened.
There was a couple times they did that. Like, I found the whole like weapons check thing, because oftentimes you see in a movie or a show or something, they do a weapons check and that's it. They have to, the red thing is they have to go get their weapons at some point to fight a battle. But you actually do see, like, even when Vex is being confronted in front of the fire and he like reaches back and then he puts his arm up, he's like, hey, you guys are a handsome couple. It was like he was reaching for his blade. Like, so you see these moments of them like going, it's like, damn it.
Yeah. I'm not used to not having this.
Yeah, things would have popped off a couple of times, I think, before they did.
Yeah.
With that. But again, it also kind of shows, my note here is separate and failure, is that together they can kind of be cohesive and human and normal somewhat. And when they separate, everything goes nuts. Like, Grog and Pike go off taking shots of champagne. And Percy's kind of left to his own devices and then is confronted with this. Like, it's just everything. They don't seem to handle life quite as well when they're not together.
Yeah. Except for Scanlan, who, starts flirting with the first person who speaks with him.
Reginald.
That poor old man. Yeah, poor Reginald.
Oh, no. He loved it.
I think he was supremely confused. I don't know whether he loved it or hated it, honestly. I don't think he knew.
I just asked him what the laboratory was.
Oh, I just needed to pee.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many good moments in this episode.
Yes.
So
I feel bad because I dropped so many bombs in chat last time that I was just ready to be like, all right, I can be more, critical, controversial, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I watched this up and I'm like, I loved every second of it. Yeah. Well, that's not happening this week.
Wow.
Okay. There were two problems that I found. One, Percy has magical self-cleaning gloves because there was a continuity issue of his blood disappearing. And two, I have questions about the titles for Sovereign Uriel and the Empress wife. Because you don't usually refer to someone as sovereign as the title if they are the top tier person of the realm, especially when discussing Empress right beside him when she hasn't been involved at all. So it's like, okay, is he just in charge of this city and its principalities and she's got bigger problems to deal with most of the time and that's why she's not around, or what is the deal? But I poked at that.
They haven't gotten into the governing system in depth for sure.
Yeah.
And even though he is the sovereign, he actually is part of the council, which everyone is a part of, and doesn't have just supreme rule.
Yeah.
But
yeah. All right. So those are my two problems.
But yeah, I had the same problem with Percy. Yeah. That was the thing where it was like they had everything going so smoothly.
It's the first time there's been a strong, continuity issue in the show thus far, I think. Honestly, I haven't noticed.
Well, I found that was kind of a double continuity issue for me because he breaks the glass and there's nothing. You see his hand a couple of times and there's nothing. Then you see him get angry and he squeezes his hand. And you can see that, until he put pressure on the wound, it really didn't start to bleed. But for the amount of blood that came out, seeing that there should have been some foretelling of blood, even like a little drip or something on the glove. So to go from white glove, dripping with blood glove to white glove was a pretty big continuity jump for me.
Yeah.
Billy's like, you guys are thinking way too hard into this.
I mean, then I lead into the fangirling about Silas and Delilah, which I could happily talk about for forever.
Yeah, again, I just loved how evil they made them.
So I love it when she's putting down the wine glass and just accentuates Percy.
Yeah,
with that, blood. Just the way that they drew it.
Yeah.
Wine, blood.
Well, but he's surrounded in red, right? Like his face is
and it's
in red.
Beautifully done.
Yeah.
Given that she thought he was dead. Presumably.
Yeah. And the fact
I
that they
am
recognized
unsure
him.
whether she actually thought that they hadn't killed him.
Well, but there is a reference though at the end when they're in the
No
pool,
loose
and she's
ends.
like, "Oh, here's the pup that got away."
Yeah.
So that could have been like, "Oh, he's alive and he's here," but no, wait, because she actually does say, she's like, "I was surprised to see him here." And then there's the pup
Yeah.
that got away. So it could be that could be played either way though. Like, I'm surprised that he's still alive, but it wasn't like, oh, he's still alive. I just took it more as like, we're at this really big fancy thing. I was kind of shocked to see him being here for this. But Billy?
Billy has thoughts. Billy probably can't say what he's thinking.
I think I'm fine in this topic. So the way I looked at it was obviously they knew he got away. I think that they're surprised that he survived on his own after that, because he couldn't use his family name. He didn't have money. Like, he had nothing and still survived, and then made it to this giant social gathering that they happened to be at. Like, it was a culmination of a bunch of stuff that really didn't make sense, and here he was. So not like pretty much everything you guys said. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that it's oh yeah, there's that dude. I'm gonna poke it. And I loved the fact that she just was doing the like, pretty sure that this is that guy. I'm gonna poke and confirm it's that guy. Yep, that's Percy.
Yeah.
And it was beautifully done.
It was.
Beautifully done.
As was Grog's. Well, why don't you go over and say hello to break the ice and then punch him in the face and see what happens?
Yes.
I'm with Frog on this one.
You know, it wouldn't, as Scanlon said, it's like, it's not an awful idea.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it is, but I can kind of get behind it.
Yeah. I was a little surprised at how quickly the conversation dropped with the fork toss, though. Like, that was like, I mean, it is a really high end thing. Like, if you've ever been to anything at that level, there's like,
You just
have
don't
to follow
do things like
decorum,
that.
you have to follow everything to the T. That's one of my favorite stories on a side note, was when Princess Diana was pregnant. She was at one of the a royal dinner, and she was new to all of this stuff, and she wasn't feeling well because she was pregnant, so she actually set her fork and knife off on the side of the plate after a couple of bites and left it there, not realizing that she had just ended the meal. Because when the princess finishes eating, then everybody's finished eating. So she was pregnant. Instead of just setting the fork and knife off to the side, saying that like, okay, I'm not going to eat right now, she closed off the meal and ended basically the entire evening for everybody, accidentally. And they followed decorum and they kept up with it. Like, everyone just missed the meal that night. So I love the fact that there is that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, this is a really big spread. This is a really high level, high decorum event. And one little thing like a fork flick is going to bring the entire night to a grinding halt for a moment and have everyone's attention.
Oh yeah,
I was
no,
quite
that made
disappointed.
sense. Yeah. Yes.
It was. But I mean, that wasn't Percy. He was just like, he wasn't responding at all. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. He was slightly triggered. Just kind of. He was something.
Intense mode for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah, he was intense. And I'm going to continue on the Uriel is not right. If these are people who there's lots of dark rumors about, and you say, hey, my messenger didn't come back, don't just immediately threaten them by sending an army at their city. It's going to end poorly.
yeah. And that was.
And once again, don't trust people with gold eyes. Even if it's only fleeting, you don't trust people with gold eyes.
That's the thing. And that's something that I noticed with this tour. It was kind of like, it didn't make, their explanation didn't make sense for that. Like, because when they're like, the messengers, it seems like no one ever comes back. Well, if no one were to leave, then what are we doing here? You're the ones in charge. You can leave at any time. We're talking about the people that go see you that don't leave. Like, you're being like, people
but
leave
they don't
because we're
have a
here.
good
That's an
answer.
example. That's not an example.
They don't have a good answer, though.
It's their charm and charisma that's winning over these people. It's the fact that they are as exquisite and beautiful and regal and hold themselves in such a way that it's like, oh, all right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, I kind of viewed it as her doing the like, well, that's ridiculous. There's clearly
Right.
nothing that's preventing people from leaving because we could leave.
Yeah.
Even though it's very much the, yeah, you two are the reason nobody's leaving.
You're avoiding my point. But that's actually,
Yes.
but one thing I wanted to say about Percy with the staring like a pervert, as Scanlon
Yes.
said in this scene, is being someone that has dealt with and deals with PTSD. They did that scene so well with him staring. And the thing that really struck a chord with me was the eye quiver. If you watched
Yes.
his eyes, the way they were quivering, and there were subtle differences in the eye quiver, because when you're in a moment like that, when you're confronted with the thing that is the trigger of your, the trigger, not little things that trigger around it, but the actual trigger, you do go into this frame of, you're so enraged that your face is red and you're like, your eyes are like shaking almost in rage, but then you're also about to burst into tears because you're facing this thing. So it's like, it's fighting back tears, it's fighting back rage, it's fighting back everything. It's just, they nailed that scene so well. And there was so much was told in the quiver of his eyes when he was looking. I thought it was fantastically done.
Yeah. They handled his PTSD beautifully because it was a case of both having like fight and freeze. You know, if it's fight, flight, and freeze as the three different ways you generally deal with a scenario that is detrimental to your health, whether it's mental health or physical health. It's fight, flight, or freeze. And he very much was in fight and freeze and struggling in those two modes and trying to keep up with, he's got that noble upbringing. So it's he knows everything he's supposed to be doing in the situation. He's supposed to be, calm and composed and charismatic, and he knows the way he's supposed to be talking to people and doing things. So that there's all of that kind of like in the back of his head of I have to be sitting here and I have to be perfect. And then there's I can't take my eyes off them because they might do something terrible like the last time I saw them when I was 12. And then that freeze of it's bringing you back to that moment when you were 12. And it's just all done in a fraction of a second with that eye twitch and with just the going back and forth, or, when he forgets to stand up. And just those little things of this is just a beautiful showcase of trauma.
Yeah. Well, that was a good thing, right? Because he was also the cue for everybody. He's like, take my lead. So when everyone else stands and he doesn't, Keyleth is the only one who stands, and that's because she's right beside the person who stands.
Yeah.
And then, so there's that whole thing. Like, again, the subtleties. I think the biggest thing that impresses me about this show are the subtleties that they factored into it. Which is great. But yeah, the Briarwoods, and then the threatening with the army. And the gentle, like, no, they need to be a sovereign state entirely on their own and not bothered with, right? Yeah.
It was a beautiful Jafar moment. I loved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. They just know. Just know. Yes. I'm very happy with character design and the voice acting, which again is no surprise given that it is Matt Mercer for Silas, which is another cue for me that they're going to be hanging around at least for a few more episodes, given that he's an excellently designed character. He is so far an excellently written character, and he's an excellently voiced character. That seems like if I were a DM, this would be the character I would want to get to voice for a while if I was getting one. So if I were in his shoes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Billy?
No comment. Yeah, no. I think Silas and Delilah are phenomenal. I would say that, my heart belongs to Delilah, but I totally get behind people who are totally into Silas as well. And I
might be very straight, but I totally would lean for both. Like, it's the 0.1% bi that is the
it's the Vax syndrome. Okay. You're a handsome couple.
Yeah, exactly. Just be like, yeah, that's just, sexuality out of desperation there, which, I mean, I guess fear is a powerful motivator in that area too.
Well, I mean, it's a good like conversation pause, right? You're about to kill me for being in your room. I reach for a blade. I don't have it. You're a handsome couple, and my brain went off. I lost my train of thought.
Well, it is even just the fact that like he's very quick with those kinds of sexual quips, because you see that in the bar fight of the like, are you offering to help? And it's throwing the dude off enough to be like, yes, no, shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very handy scene. That was.
Oh, that was bad. I see what you punned there, and I don't like it.
But yeah, the other thing too is I really like, just again in the background, when they do the entrance, and you see their man bringing their chest up to their room, and that's where Vex is like.
Desmond?
Desmond, yeah.
Poor Desmond.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Poor Desmond. But just that chest.
Well, yeah, going up.
It's heavy.
And then the 5-finger discount at the end was terrible. But
yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, so I can't wait for that. That's to talk about that whole scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, to see him like just trudging the chest up the stairs by himself, and I love the fact that anytime you've got a Gothic or Victorian style story that has this, there's always the sunken-eyed, hollow-cheeked, frail person that's either the servant, the coach, the coach driver, or whatever. There's always just this one, like showing like the really thick, full-built rich people, and then the poor, impoverished, malnourished aide that's there that does everything.
Yeah, Desmond and Silas are two very, very dichotomous characters right there with the design of the Desmond is an unfortunate soul. And yeah, he's yes.
I wonder if there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Why is he so emaciated?
Yeah. Why does it look like he's been used a few times?
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, is like that's a dichotomy that they have. Like in a lot of these stories, you have this kind of connection, and I love that it plays through. And it's again the subtleties of how they have all this stuff set.
Speaking of dinner,
yeah, but yeah, then we have I love that scene with Vex when he's walking through the hallway and he's following the guard, and absolutely. Where he's, I've actually done that to someone before. Where you're trying to hide behind someone and you like spin with them. I was in a long story short, I was in a haunted house. There's a little kid. I was hiding in a corner, all dressed in black. You couldn't see me. And there's this little kid that I scared the hell out of. So he ran back through the haunted house, and then I heard him coming. So there was the corner here where I was hiding, and then there's black curtains, and I was wearing the robe. So I flipped and I hid in the black curtains, and then he went and he kicked into where I was before. And when he wasn't there, I grabbed him from behind, and then he freaked out and he came running back through. And then I just got to the point where I would just like pivot behind him and grab him, and then he'd freak out and spin, and I'd pivot behind him and grab him again.
That is amazing and excellent.
Yeah, until he fell and scraped his face on the ground. But
oh no!
He was being a little jerk. He was punching other people in the haunted house. He got a scratch on his chin. It's fine.
Yeah,
the anti-hero.
Yeah. So tangentially, because that reminded me of a Halloween years ago, in junior high, there was a house that had some Halloween decorations that was like an archway that they'd covered in black, and there was a dude in a like Grim Reaper costume just sitting beside the entrance to that archway. You had to go past, go through, and then there was candy on the other side. And it wasn't 100% clear whether it was an actual person or just like a prop. And so my friend and I are walking up, to that house. And my friend just looks over and is just like, dude, let's just go to the next one. Like, and says it loudly enough that it's like, you're an idiot. Because dude just clearly heard you if there's a dude there. And I was just like, no, it's fine. So I walk by and walk through, get to the candy. Dude doesn't move. My friend goes, okay, that's fine. Walks by him and just gets tackled. And she's just screaming. And I was just like, you were the weakest link. You were the weakest link. So they never show them you're afraid.
Yeah. It's amazing how people react in those scenarios, though. Again, for just one last tangent on this. When I used to work as an actor and a model, and one of the modeling jobs I had was actually to be like a mannequin. I was freeze modeling, and I was wearing just boxers, and we were standing in this department store.
There's a lot more Calm Scribe going on here. Like,
well, that's the thing. So I'm standing there, and we had to like pose like mannequins, and I'm wearing nothing but boxers. It was a Givenchy campaign that I was doing, and all of a sudden there's these two women come, and they start like older women, and they're standing in front of us talking, and they're like, "Are they real or are they fake?" And there's like me and two other people.
oh
And
my.
they're like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then they're like, "I'm not sure." And then one of them reaches up and puts her hand on my junk, and I just kind of looked down at her, and she was like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "They're real," and they ran away. So yeah, be very careful around things that may or may not be real. That's not.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Always keep your hands to yourself. Always keep your hands to yourself.
I mean, she could have pinched my arm, she could have touched my leg, but no, that
Literally
was,
anything other than your junk.
Yeah.
Just this.
Talking
She
about ball
felt
tag.
very sure. She felt very sure that you were a mannequin.
Exactly.
Clearly, only one way to tell whether a person's a mannequin or not is whether or not they actually have junk.
That's my go-to.
Yeah, I mean.
Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. Clearly the only way.
Exactly. But that was a really cool scene with Vex when he's following the guard, and then the belt thing. Like, that snake belt thing was really... it was a pleasant surprise for me. See, like, there's the two guards there. How is he going to get by? Is he going to knock their heads together? Or what is he going to do? It's like, no, he's going to throw his belt on the floor. It's going to turn into a one-eyed snake and, like, lead the guards away. Like,
Yeah.
I did not picture that.
I love Belt
No.
Snake. I was praying to everything that would listen that Belt Snake was going to be in this, and I am very happy that Belt Snake was.
I feel like there's so much I've missed by not watching this episode, this season of Critical Role. And like now that they are doing another one, and I'm like oftentimes, like I said, for reasons I can't watch often, and it just feels like I'm missing out on so much because there's just so much that they have to offer.
I have very much enjoyed not necessarily knowing what to expect in some ways, because it's just been pleasant to have these surprises and then do the like, I loved the fact that he actually got his belt back and whatnot, because it's the retrieval of things is very much something that is rarely shown just in general. And then it's the like, oh, in the next episode, you have your belt back. Okay, well, how did you get it back? It was nice to see it. Like, nope, Snake comes under the door and goes back into being a belt. And success, here we go.
Yeah.
For use
Good
in the
boy.
future.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's a good boy.
that's the other thing though, is that there's tropes that you never see, and they've hit them all. Like the retrieval, and the thing for me is the bathroom trope. Anytime you watch a movie, a film, like anything, like shows or anything like that, there's very rare if there's an adventure thing or a war thing that they deal with someone going to the bathroom. And we've seen Scanlan peeing, where he gets the poster and pees on the guy's leg. And then we even see this thing where it's like, I was just asking for the lavatory. Like, it's just, they actually do mention bathrooms. They actually do mention the fact that there's bodily functions that need to be dealt with.
Like the squirts.
The squirts. That's the other thing too. It's like, Vex is up there. He's in danger. Oh no, and he's got the squirts too.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Grog.
I especially loved that because that is so. As a DM myself, if I have someone that can't make it to a game, their character automatically has the squirts, and that's why they're unavailable to participate. Like, oh, spent all day in the inn with the squirts. So when they said this, I was just like, yes, I love D&D.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then that again, there's just the stuff they did with the chest. Like they could have
I
made
want it.
the chest thing so much easier.
Yeah.
And instead, yeah, they made it something that you're like, 'cause I immediately after the top opened, my brain, because I like to build things, my brain started like blueprinting As I was watching, I'm like, okay, well, if you have this and then it comes down, you need to do, like trying to figure out how to blueprint a chest like that.
I appreciate that Vax like nailed his perception checks for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a rogue.
Yeah. And I want her book. I want that book.
Yes.
Badly.
I want all the things that were there. Like
Yes.
everything that, actually, including the clothes, to be fair. Everything that was in that
Including
chest and the chest I
What was in their
want.
clothes.
Yeah. Except for maybe the necklace. Maybe not the beads. So again, like Keyleth, you would think she would have learned by now that it's like when Scanlan makes a statement, don't question it.
Just
You
don't.
don't want to know what the rest of the answer is, at least not her.
So this is my problem with the episode. I don't think Keyleth would have gotten that. Period. It would have had to be spelled out for her. She got it way too quick.
Yeah.
I am honestly a little surprised that it wasn't like Vex having to do the anal bead stare. Just stop.
But I mean, but to be fair, she does know Scanlan very well, so maybe that was the bridge there, where it's just like, not,
Maybe.
I didn't make, oh god, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
wanted to
was-
see the other
I-
people react in that moment.
I
We
mean,
only
you
saw Keyleth
did.
react.
You kind of did with his song.
With the song, yes.
You kinda did.
That down the, pull on my beads of love.
Yeah.
But with that immediate reaction, though, I would have loved to have seen like the Briarwood's reaction or anything. But I guess the Briarwoods probably would have been stone-faced. They wouldn't
Yeah,
have
I think
reacted.
that she just would have done the whole like, these are immature children. Moving on. Yeah. I also just I adore their magic. Like I loved having all of the lights go out in their room with Vax and him getting to do the oh shit, and then having them choose to show the fireplace and really key in on that for that moment and then have it go out. And that flash, have them show up behind him, was just like beautifully done. Beautifully done. To have it be a no. Vax is kind of fucked right now.
Yeah.
Like his luck is now officially run out.
And that was one of my point of yelling at the screen for this episode was like, when you hear them walking down the hallway talking loudly with loud voices, don't fold the clothes and put shit back. Leave. You don't need to pack their chest again. Get the hell out. They're going to know someone was in their room anyways, right?
I assume that it was just because he heard them out there chatting and so loud, he thought he had more time. Like they were gonna have to fumble with the keys and unlock the door and go inside, and he's a sneaky big boy. He can do whatever he wants. He's gonna get away no matter what. And then it did not go play out the way that he expected it to.
And in his defense, even though he's found all of this macabre work and a spell book or grimoire and whatnot, he doesn't know the same stuff that we do. Like he doesn't understand the level of fucked that he is yet at that point. So I can understand him kind of being like, okay, like this person's just like a witch or just somebody who doesn't necessarily have their own power. They're going to be summoning some stuff. I have time. And if they show up, I can smooth talk my way out. I can sneak my way out because they've also shown him to be very sneaky and very competent at that. So I can understand him definitely kind of doing the, no, I've got time to make sure that they have no idea I was ever here. And
No
then
idea.
No idea. And then, the fact that they showed up and just appeared right behind the chest, it's the, like, they are right there. So it's the, like, you can just see him having that moment of like,
Oh.
fuck, or rather Changa.
Yeah, I love that
Even though
actually
that
did
comes later, but it's very much he's having that moment.
Yeah. Hey, SJ, welcome. How are you tonight?
Hey.
Well, that was the thing that struck me as well, is the fact that they didn't just like it shows their level of power, because they didn't just like poof into the room. They like poofed directly behind him. They knew exactly where he was in the room, and they were right there.
Yeah.
And
Does
they
anyone-
the thing is, they didn't even know where their chest was put, right? Because the chest
No.
was put when they were downstairs.
Yeah.
Does anyone else wish they had this kind of spooky dark magic? Because all I could think of when they like poofed into that room was, I want to be able to do that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So I'm wearing a Darth Maul shirt. There we go. Kind of can see. Darth Maul, Mouth of Sauron, Witch King.
I take it back.
Lord,
Travis, don't you wish?
I was gonna say,
Spawn.
yeah.
I've always been a fan of like
100%
Nightcrawler, Spawn, that kind of thing. Like I've always like, except for the smell that goes with Nightcrawler from the X-Men comics, to be able to just like and be in somewhere else would be. There's so many times that I've stuck in traffic, sitting at work, whatever, to just be like, I just love to be able to just like and be somewhere else.
Not be here.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to like slide the cars off the road in front of me.
Yeah.
That's always been the thing I've wanted because I enjoy driving. So it's I don't want to not have to drive. I just want no one else to be around. And if I get to watch a few cars blow up and whatnot in the process, then like that's excellent. That makes life more interesting.
Snowplow. Blades.
Yeah.
Flip the cars out. Just go.
Interesting.
But I just want the telekinesis aspect of it to be able to just and you're gone, and you're gone, and you're gone.
That's it. And Billy is now second guessing why he's working with us.
Billy has read this. None of this
Yeah.
should come as a surprise to him.
That's fair. No, it's more of a. I feel like you guys are very coordinated in what you would do, and my thoughts and dreams have always been much more chaotic. I want to be able to like have bolts of lightning come down and strike the cars that are in my way because I want to punish them for being in my way.
I can understand that. I can
I've
understand
never thought
that
about
desire.
moving them.
Yeah, no, just sliding them off the road. Not necessarily in a way that anyone survives the encounter, but out of my way. Yeah.
That is
But yeah,
beautiful.
no.
Began that comment with I was just folding down your bed. I forgot the little mints though. Or
The
the little
little
chocolate
mints.
mints.
Yeah. Yes.
Again, the quips in this are brilliant. But yeah, and then there's that mind control, that the whole thing. And that was the thing too that I picked up on is Keyleth saw that happen.
Yes.
Because you watch that scene, there's the mind control of the Sovereign, and that whole thing happens.
I
And then
love her sitting there
Keyleth
doing
is
it.
just
Like, did anyone see that?
Yeah, like just the wide-eyed, like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna say that the Sovereign being brainwashed into not sending troops to their castle is going to come up again somewhere in the future.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
That's
In
going to
one
play
way or
into the
another,
story
that's
somehow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, I love the mind control. I love that brainwashing. And I love how it went down with Vax. And I
Yeah.
love how it broke and when it broke, which just
Yeah.
makes me ask so many more questions because of the fact that, like, was it something that Silas let go of? Was it something that Vax broke because he was in so much pain? Because that would really fucking hurt, being bit on the neck. You know.
Yeah. Or was it just like, I'm going to stun you so you can't fight back? It's just going to be easier for me. Like, I can do this. So instead of having to fight you and have you fight me off and try to, I'm just, you know what, little boy, I'm just going to pause you in motion for a moment. I'm going to bite you. And then once the bite is done, it doesn't matter.
I did love, because it does show this very, a dichotomy within Silas even. Because you're introduced to him as a character, as someone who hops out of that carriage and then just is, you know, he is very much Grog's equivalent. Just in a classy looking suit. by the whole, he is able to just pick up the felled tree and kill people with that and put his hand through their chest and all of these things that are very much just gory and barbaric and all of these things. And then when he is in the castle and he's with Delilah, and there's a level of quiet would be appreciated, that he is just very much just gonna brainwash you into standing here nicely while I drink you.
Yeah.
Fun.
He could have ripped him in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily.
It's almost like he enjoys playing with his food.
Yes. And I love it.
And speaking of food, did you see how rare their steaks were?
Yeah.
Again,
Yes,
the little
cooked them
details.
right. They
Right?
cooked them right.
Just the little details were just brilliant for that.
Yeah.
And then, he takes that. Again, little details. Jumps out the window. Not a clean jump. Not a, I'm going to jump and land in a pool. It's, I'm going to jump, bounce off a flagpole.
Yeah.
And land in the
He
pool
rolled it
afterwards.
too.
Like, again, it's just those little things where it's just like, yeah,
He
you're
didn't.
not... you know?
He tried.
Yeah.
He tried.
I don't know if y'all can hear the giggle fest that's going on back over here.
No, but I'm glad that she's in a much better mood than the screaming from last time. Poor girl.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's the night that the tooth breaks through is the worst night.
Yeah.
So she's, I think, got 3 teeth that have come through now. So
Oh boy.
they're just rapid fire at this point.
All at the
No
same
kidding.
time.
Yeah.
I caught like one giggle there at the end.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there was one.
I mean,
she likes Silas and Delilah too.
she does. She actually didn't get to see this episode because I watched it in my office. But
Ooh.
probably for the better with the ending of this. But yeah, and then we get into pull on my beads of love. Well, first we have Silas jump down and land on the in the water, which was, again, it's a beautiful landing when he comes in.
Yes.
But we do have, before the fight breaks out, we do have the pull on my beads of love, which is fantastic.
With the rainbow LED codpiece.
I mean, they didn't have a disco ball. They needed something to show that it was going to be a party. And Scanlan, he doesn't miss his mark.
No, he doesn't. There's just
was
so many
without
things.
his loot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Oh, baby.
And I love the fact that his loot was set aside with the weapons.
Yes.
Yeah.
As it
That's
should be.
Right?
It's dangerous.
But there's just so many things where I'm like, I want that. There's so many things in this show. I'm like, I want to buy all of these things. And if you come out with a rainbow colored LED codpiece, I will buy it.
No.
But there are also...
I'm sure it will sell out.
What was that?
I'm sure it would sell out.
Oh, yes, it definitely would. And actually, we did miss something, though. Back in the room, the very subtle, quick nod when Vax opens the book to the Whispered One.
I don't know what that is, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So there's a quick little thing, and that's my... Does he still have the book? I mean, he took a
Yes.
swim. He got
No
messed
comment.
up. Like, I mean, if it's a magical tome, it's probably okay, but...
It was not shown being left.
Well, he tucked it in his jacket.
Exactly. So he, as far as we know, theoretically still has it, because you never see Silas or Delilah grab it or take it. So unless it fell within the room somewhere, which they're generally too detail oriented to have just like not shown it fall off, I would say that he still has it.
So that's my question. Is it going to be destroyed by the water then? Or is this...
It's a magical spell book.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
I will very much lay shame on Delilah if her spell book can be destroyed by water. Like, that will take several notches off of her esteem in my book.
Yeah. There's actually... I saw a thing today on an advertisement for the Book of the Dead from The Mummy. You can actually buy a replica with the key that unlocks it and everything.
Oh, that's very cool. That's
Yeah.
really
All
neat.
right, well, I now have another thing I need for my office.
Yeah, I didn't look into how much it is. I definitely, if it's not an absurdly priced thing, I'm definitely looking it up. But so then we have the he's spell control. He's bit. He jumps out the window. And then, like we're saying before, the try-fail cycles for the people. We have in episode 1, they fight together in the bar. They're cohesive, but they're drunk, so they're stumbly. They fight the dragon for the first time, and they completely screw it up because they're not fighting together. They're kind of doing their own individual thing. They finally come together. They fight together as a team. They're extremely successful. They pull it together, and they succeed. And then in this, they're in the courtyard. They fight together as a team, and they fail again. So these try-fail cycles are really well lined up in how they're setting these up.
This does actually bring me to another complaint about this episode.
Oh, this
Or
I
just
wanna hear.
about overall, because keyless magic is actually the only magic within the group so far that has been used frequently, and we haven't seen a negative reaction from it. Like the way that, Pike can only use her magic when she's not spent. Keyleth doesn't seem to have like these limits put on yet, and I would like to see when we hit her limit and where that limit is, because she is extraordinarily powerful. Even like her biggest issue right now, it seems like it's just confidence to be able to step into her own, because she seems like she is terrifyingly powerful.
Just very reactionary.
If she were able to actually like really get into herself, she would be terrifying, which I'm sure is going to be part of her character arc. But I would like to see a little bit of her being tired or spent, especially given that like you see her in the morning with her Disney princess and the vines that grow through the doorway. And then even when Allura is coming through, you see the fresh green vines that are on the columns in their keep that are 100% like guaranteed that's from Keyleth. So I want to see where her limits are, because otherwise it's going to start to become very broken very quickly of well, why doesn't Keyleth just fix everything? Why is anyone else even here? But
So
we're not at
part
that
of-
point yet.
part of this is just the way that D&D 5e works. Unfortunately, just in the rule books, druids are stupidly broken. Like
Okay.
they are just like super powerhouses that can do everything. And most of the stuff that we see Keela do, like making all those vines and making everything beautiful, those are all free actions. They can do that at will.
Well, that's insane.
So I was gonna say, don't the druids get their, like, they're not necessarily using their magic in a way that they're being tapped out when they do that stuff. They're using the energy of the earth, of the stuff that they're pulling. So they're just using a trickle to guide everything, and using its own life, natural energy to do what.
And
when
it gets to much more like high level, super expansive things, then sure they do have a limit on that. But the stuff that we're seeing from Keyleth, most of that's canon, unfortunately.
There's a reason at least for it.
Yeah.
And I can take that. Like even if it's something that like as far as my world building, wouldn't use because it is broken as fuck. At least there is a canonical reason why she is built and designed the way she is, and why her magic is much more free flowing than, say, Pikes or Scanlan's. That there's a good valid reason why hers is just like, poof, everything is the way that it is.
But to be fair, though, we don't really see Scanlan suffer either. He does his stuff, and he doesn't really tire out.
Yeah, he doesn't do much.
Too much.
He's done Scanlan's hand. He's done there's a couple of big things that he's done.
He did the big mimic of the whole group with the dragon. So there have been a few things, but like after that, he didn't do a lot afterwards. So it was kind of, I assumed that it was like, all right, he does have to take a break between these sorts of things and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm interested to see a little bit more of the limitations with their magic. And I think that we're going to be seeing much more of that in the future just because of the fact that you have Delilah's magic. And her magic is also terrifyingly OP at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really well done. Well, that was the thing too. I really like too with the Dragonlance novels, the way they did it, where
Wrestling.
anytime they did a magician used a spell or wizard used a spell, they had to go back and restudy that spell because once you used it, you forgot it. So you actually had to take time to rest and study and rebuild your magic. You couldn't just go fireball after fireball. Like you could throw one fireball and that spell was toast, right? So I do like having those little things factored in. So it'll be curious to see how this plays out. Because, yeah, Delilah's magic right now is just horrifying.
I love it. I love that it screams.
It's
It
like
makes me
sonic
so
attacks. Yeah.
happy. That it's it just has it. It just screams. It is coming at you and it is screaming. It is just rending the world. And I love it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And we cannot miss Silas's blade.
I loved it.
Oh, you've got a sword. How cute.
See, yes, but this sword is a fancy sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am very partial, as Billy knows, to black blades that do magical, fantastic things, especially at the slightest touch. So it just made me extremely happy to watch Silas hacking and slashing away at Grog and the blood just soaking into the blade and having it just constantly becoming scarier and scarier as a sword, to be like, how much worse is this gonna get the more blood that comes into it? And it was just very exciting to see. I enjoyed it a great deal.
Yeah. That whole battle scene was just
Beautiful.
gorgeous. It was so well done.
And don't ball tag villains. That's just a bad idea, Grog.
Yeah,
That
third
just
ball
pisses
tag.
them off.
But I love his reaction. He's like, ball tag! Oh, shit.
Yeah. That
It was
did
more
remind
like-
me.
What?
It did remind me of the moment that they do that in Castlevania in the first season with Alucard and Trevor just hits him in the nuts, and Alucard does the please. We're civilized. And it's like, no, neither of you are above this, but we'll get to that later.
So although ball tag time is a good one, I think my favorite part of this was no one kills Vax but me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, because yes.
Yeah. And then we also see Pike jump in and obviously save Vax and start saving Vax. But that was a question that I had, though, is can Pike's magic, if Vax has become infected with something, if like whatever is that going to cure everything, or is there going to be any side effect of him being bit? Is there going to be any problem with him being bit, or is her cure-all going to be the cure of everything for him?
I don't know.
I'm excited to see the answer to that question because I know what I have done with the same kind of scenario because I have written something for the next book that plays with this kind of blood bite magic. And I'm really excited to see what their plans are for it, given that there are some distinct similarities that I am enjoying about some of these characters with characters that I have written. So I'm just really excited and hopeful that there will be a great deal that is going to bite them in the ass about this, especially given that we don't have a clear show of what happened even with the hypnosis. Because of the fact that it cuts away, we don't know what Silas said or did to Vax before he bit him. You have him saying things like, you're a curious one, and all of that. And it's okay, there are many double meanings that can be taken from that statement, especially if it's is this hypnosis just a one way I tell you things and you will do them? Or is it a hypnosis of the, I know what's in your head and I can plant things or pull things at my leisure? Because those dynamics are questions that I want to see answered eventually, with the Vax is in a lot of trouble and going to be in a lot of trouble later on.
Yeah, most definitely. There's a lot of questions that need to come from that, or a lot of answers that need to come from that scene. Like, again, they set up so much stuff in this one episode for down the road. That's just so very exciting.
I feel like this episode, even though they've all been the same runtime-ish, this episode was so fast. Like, the scenes just went in and out, and the plot ran so fast, and yet there was so much juice in it. It was like those steaks they were eating. It was just crazy that it was only 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it felt like 5.
Well, like, there was a reason that it took me an hour and a half when I was taking notes to get through 25 minutes of episode. Because it was like literally every few seconds pausing it, writing something down, pressing play again, pressing pause, writing something down. Yeah. So it was excellent.
Yeah. And that's why I'm happy. I watched this one on I've got one really big monitor and a smaller monitor. So I watched it on the big monitor, and I was able to actually sit at my desk and take proper notes rather than trying to write on my lap. And it was great to be able to do that for this episode here, because there was so many pauses. There's so many things that, there's just so many key moments, and it moved so quickly. I'm really looking forward to going back, and I haven't had a chance to, because I'm going to watch my way all the way through to get caught up with everything. But I haven't had a chance to do that yet, and I'm just really looking forward, because I know it's one of those things that I'm just going to pull in, and it's just going to go. So
yeah.
Yes. But yes, they do have this wild fight. So much happens so quickly in that scene. In that battle scene, and then Pike actually helping Grog, I really liked, like sending the magic into his blade and fighting back, and then again it still failed. It wasn't enough. And I really like the try-fail cycles in stories. I really like look, they finally got, like, this is their abilities. It's really amazing. Look how great, and it failed them. But then they learned from it, and they got bit, and it failed them again. And I really love how they're doing that with this. Like, the try-fail cycles are just beautifully laid out. They're not contrived, and they're just really, like everything else, it's really subtle in this story.
It is a lot of fun, and I adore just the fact that Pike is also very powerful. And I do love the fact that Delilah just did you are a problem, and I will solve it. Now you're not a problem. You're just a tiny gnome that can't do shit.
That was
and
painful
I loved
to watch.
it. Oh, it
that scene was
beautiful.
Really painful to watch. To see Pike throw through the air like that, and like the magic come through her, it was well done. And again, even the tension of Vax in the room, like again, for a cartoon, they build the tension in this so much that you forget you're watching a cartoon. They do such a great job with this.
Yeah, the peril was extremely high throughout the final 10 minutes of the episode. At no point did you feel like a character was safe. Any one of them at any time could have had that wicked sword up to the hilt.
Except for Scanlan.
Except for Scanlan, who wasn't there.
Yeah, Scanlan was.
He was keeping the guards busy.
Scanlan was doing his thing. But that's the thing too, though, that I found. I like the positioning of power, and having them fighting a dragon and seeing that they were able to pull themselves together and use their techniques working together and defeat a dragon. And now they're against 2 people, and all of those tricks aren't working for them. They're getting their ass handed to them. I mean, Scanlan's not there to do the distraction side of things, but all of their abilities, all the stuff that they have that defeated a dragon, is now falling at the feet of this couple, and that kind of shows you how powerful this couple is, because you've got this comparison, this juxtaposition for it. And I love, again, the subtlety of it.
I think too that it's very helpful that the way that they defeated that dragon is by using deception, by being able to hide and come together as a team and plan, even if it was very rapid fire planning, they still needed that moment to be like, okay, we're hiding, we are safe for 30 seconds, I have a plan, let's go do it, done. And there was at no point in the fight with Delilah and Silas that they could take a moment and think and, you know, come together as a team. So it was much more akin to that first battle with the dragon, where it was just kind of failing all over the place because they don't know and they're not together enough as a team to be able to rapid fire coordinate in a flat out battle.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to see how they grow in that regard, because they're not, I don't foresee them being able to use a similar or same technique on Delilah and Silas that worked on the dragon. And I think part of that is just by virtue of the fact that it was one dragon versus them. It didn't have backup. And I think that if there had been any kind of second character there, they would have been in a lot more trouble with that dragon.
Yeah, that's true. But there's also with Delilah's magic is amazing what they do. Like that thing, the one scene that really stuck out to me, I really loved, is her skipping across the pond, like skipping across the pool.
Yeah.
And then appearing on the other side. Like just that like across was just such a beautiful thing. Like it's, you know, she can throw the magic, she can control it different ways, she can zip herself across things. That's just so expansive what she's able to do. And yeah, when you've got an enemy that can appear behind you in a heartbeat, it's kind of hard to swing at them.
Yeah, like she is a beautiful challenge that they are unprepared for.
Yeah, greatly so.
More so than Silas, because
Agreed.
he's terrifying, but you know how to deal with brute force. Like he is basically just a lot of brute force. If you behead him, I am sure that what usually happens when you behead things will happen to him, regardless of the fact that he can heal over. I don't think that suddenly you'll just have two Silases and one growing from the head stump and one growing from the neck stump. I think you might just have dead. However, I say that if that were to happen, I would be okay with it.
Yeah, like Billy's
I'm not
sure
complaining if that happens. But there are more ways that you're likely to be able to beat a vampire. But when you have a sorceress who can just basically go wherever she feels like, do whatever she wants, you have a much more difficult challenge that I don't think that even Gilmore is going to just have a, here is my lance that will fix this problem for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. But speaking of cool powers and abilities, so Keyleth comes in, saves the day, much to Percy's chagrin. And then Percy comes in and get to see a little bit more about Mr. Percy. Let's say darker side, which I loved, and the shadow they did for him, I absolutely loved.
I keyed on to the statement of your soul is now forfeit and did the, excuse me, I'm getting both like blood magic, epic sorcery, and soul related magic.
Yeah.
I am in love, and this is all amazing, and no matter what happens now, I am very invested in Silas, Percy, and Delilah. And unfortunately, as per usual, my favorite characters are going to die. It's just a matter of whether it's a complete wipe of all three of them or if it's only a wipe of two of them.
Yeah, I can see Percy surviving. But I mean, as soon as I saw the plague doctor mask in his room, I was like, okay, there's something cool coming up with this. I was not expecting the smoke to come out of his cuffs, and they come up, and then that great big like demonic shadow beside him and everything. Like, yeah, I am very, very, the one person that we didn't get to know enough about in the beginning is the one person I am dying to know more about now.
Yeah, there was no hint about that shadow magic at all, I don't think, throughout the first two episodes. Billy's making me think that I need to go and rewatch the first 2 episodes. But I love that he's not just the sciencey one. He is like, he's basically like turned into kind of the alchemist in my mind, of the, he's got all of the sciencey aspects, but then he's going to just be throwing a bunch of magic into it as well, because of the fact that he has this almost, I would say because of the trauma, he almost has this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of deal going on here. And I'm very excited to see how his magic continues to manifest, or how he continues to control it and keep it under wraps. Because like, you don't see that magic being used against the dragon. So it's not just a, okay, life or death situation, this thing comes out. It is a very particular, specific level of anger required for this to happen.
But is it just anger, though? Because he had to put the mask on.
No, the smoke starts before the mask comes on.
Oh,
it comes down his wrist, and then he puts it on as it's coming.
Yeah.
So I have questions, and I'm excited for answers, especially, I have episode 4 related comments that come for this that will have to wait until next week.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I like doing about this, is the points where we have to play dumb and be like, oh, but what is this going to happen?
Amazing things. Things happen.
It is.
Beautiful, amazing things happen.
And he... so we get the 5-finger discount for our little helper.
Poor Desmond.
Yeah. Poor Desmond.
Yeah. And then we see the Sovereign. Well, Percy freaks out on the group, and then or I guess mainly on Keyleth for letting them get away.
How dare she focus on saving people instead of murdering people?
Yeah, exactly.
That terrible human being.
But again, that's where you can see the PTSD is unhinged. He's gone off. Yeah. He's in the rage mode. He is fixated on what he needs to do and what he wants to do. And then we have the Sovereign come out, and again, make a boneheaded thing. Like, you see a group of your heroes, your realm's heroes, bloodied and battered and beaten in your courtyard, and your response is arrest them.
My assumption is that that's the brainwashing talking, because there's no way that Silas and Delilah just left it at, just don't bother us with your soldiers. I am very much presuming that there's a lot more that goes on between that, especially because Uriel didn't repeat exactly what Silas said back to him. Silas would say something like, there's no need to do this, and we should be protected. So then, like, that's when Uriel did your independence needs to be protected.
Yeah.
And it was that's different, pedantically, than what Silas said. So my question is how much then is left over? Is there a command that was left that is beyond just you don't send your soldiers after us? If it was no, you are at all costs going to protect Whitestone. And that means, when Uriel comes out and sees that, Silas and Delilah are running away, and these people are battered, bloodied, and whatnot in his courtyard, that instead of doing what the fuck did those people do, it's no, we have to protect them, so our protectors of the realm are now wrong, and therefore, and I assume there's black magic doing beautiful, wonderful things.
There's a lot of beautiful, wonderful things in this episode.
Yes.
Including Scanlan coming out covered in cream.
Yes, covered in all the cream pie from head to crotch. And,
Fuck.
So admittedly, I am slightly disappointed that he said fuck and not mommy, given that they established that as his safe word.
That would have been a really good tie-in. I'm disappointed I didn't get any Scanlan insults. I have to expand my insults to just be insults from the show, because we have fuckstick from Grog, but that's the only insult that we had this episode.
Yeah, he was very secondary in this episode, maybe even tertiary.
I think tertiary is, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if he got a song.
I mean, how can he not have a song in every episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really was not a player in this episode. But all in all, I mean, we already discussed our gripes and what we really liked about it, and all in all, I gotta say, I think it was a fantastic episode. It's one of these shows that I have real difficulty pulling apart things that I don't like, and I find that I have, I was saying just this on my stream the other night, I can't remember in what context, but I was saying that, every show, like we discussed, every show, its first season has its bumps and grooves that it has to figure out and iron out, or its wrinkles, and not this one. They you could say they ironed out the wrinkles when they did it in the campaign, and they figured out what it was, and they're building it off of something that already exists. But for a premiere season of something, or a premiere of a showing of a show, I am incredibly impressed at how well they've pulled everything together on us.
I would argue that the fact that they did this at the table beforehand isn't a reason for it to be so well done in its first season. If you think about it, Wheel of Time is coming from a set of novels that was done previously. The story is already set, and it had growing pains, and this does not have the same kind of growing pains. And they not only had to take subject matter from something, but they had to take it for something very uncouth. Like, no one's made.
I don't think anyone has done anything like it before.
Yeah. So they're actually trudging on like completely new territory and doing it.
Yeah.
Close to flawlessly.
Yeah. I was not deeply invested after the first episode. Like, I watched the first episode and I was just like, it's good. It's kind of my sense of humor. I'm not sure whether or not I'm really going to be enjoying it like a ton. And then like episode 2 was very much the like, no, I'm getting on board with this. And now episode 3 is the, yes, I am highly invested and I will be watching everything, and please give me season 2 now. So I think that they have sorted out some of the growing pains even between the first 2 episodes to the third one. Mm-hmm. And I think in some ways those first 2 episodes were the growing pains to get people sucked in some ways, which I don't think were necessary. Like I liked those 2 episodes. They had important things and important details, but I, looking back, kind of see that it's the, okay, we're getting you people invested. We've got a big name actor playing our villain, all of these things. And now, okay, now we're actually starting on the true storyline is almost how I'm feeling we're starting, because I don't see this being a next episode we solve everything that Silas and Delilah are doing. Like, I feel like it's going to end up being further down. We're going to get the tie-in with the dragon and then find out what the total overarching plan is, and whether or not even Silas and Delilah are the actual big bads, or if there's someone even above Delilah in all of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am now fully invested. And it is definitely doing a lot better than others.
Yeah, they did.
You can't listen.
Yeah, only just arrived. Yes, definitely worth watching. Thumbs up all around. Yes. Yeah. Watch. I would say, though, that I was talking about this last week.
There we go.
I was talking about this last week, and I think that it's... I don't know. Like, the dragon storyline seemed to be very encapsulated. That it was, this is a threat that's happening to the realm. This needs to be stopped. The dragons are trying to come back and take over power of the realm again. And it's something that can come back down the road. But it also kind of seemed almost like, because Billy was saying episode 3 is really where the game starts, where they're on camera for the game and moving forward. So it almost seemed like the first 2 episodes were like a prologue. These are the characters, this is who they are, this is what they can do, this is how they do things, this is how they became a cohesive unit, and then this is how they became the protectors of the realm, and now let's go into this story. of what it is. So I can see the dragon coming back, but I can also see the dragon just being like, that was an introduction to everything, and let's go.
I would agree, except for the fact that they do actually say like that he had plans, like he had all of these more things, and like yeah, it was more for dragons, but I'm really hoping that given that he had big plans and it sounded like there was a we to it, that it's either going to be we're going to get more dragons involved at some point, which would be excellent, or it will be a tie-in with Silas and Delilah, because it wouldn't surprise me if again they had an agreement going with Creek, because he has really done a good job of decimating so much of Taldore that any plans that they have going forward are going to be much easier, given that so many heroes are dead and that there's so much as far as burnt out farmland. Like strategically, Taldore is in a rough place post Dragon, that it seems like it is the perfect opportunity for them to now kind of pick up those pieces and play with it. That I am very much hoping that there will be that kind of overarching tie-in to it, since he's had plans.
Definitely a lot to see.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it makes me really happy to hear how much both of you are enjoying this. I knew before we even started that I was going to enjoy this just based on the subject matter. And I knew that episode 3 was going to be a turning point, especially for you, LJ. I was very, I was very hesitant about episode 1 and 2 because I was like, this could fall real flat, real easy. But I knew that if you made it to episode 3, you'd be like, all right.
I just needed to see Silas and Delilah.
Yeah, exactly. But also, it's a more enthralling story arc. It's a very interestingly crafted and mysterious and everything. One of the things that I think that's really important, just to keep in mind with this, is the canon that it's coming from is 700, 800, whatever it is, hours of material. And there are multiple story arcs like this Briarwood story arc that are involved in it. And I don't know what we're going to get and what we're not going to get. There have been some that are already gone, that they've already crossed off the board just by including a flashback involved with it in one way or another. And so I am optimistic for things having payoff in the future, but I don't know, just because we're only guaranteed 2 seasons and there's 12 episodes a season. And there's so much material. It could be anything that we're getting next year.
Yeah, I can see the people clamoring for more than 2 seasons, though. Like, I can see this going longer. And that's the thing that I like about this, too, is that I was just saying this the other night, that I'm surprised we're not seeing more animations coming out right now, just because, given COVID and everything that's happening, and animation is so much easier to pull together under COVID restrictions than a live action thing is. And so to see an animation of this caliber coming out and be doing what it's doing is phenomenal. And I think that this might actually also start shifting some people's perceptions of cartoons. Being like, well, it's a cartoon, I don't want to watch, that's silly. Like we said, Heavy Metal and a couple of other movies and shows in the past have helped move that along. But I think this one is really has the opportunity to change people's perceptions and pull some people on board. Because I know people that, like, even a movie I really like called Waking Life, and it's kind of live action animated mix kind of thing, and people I know that won't watch it because, like, I don't like cartoons. Well, it's not a cartoon. It's not. It's like a comic book isn't a comic. Like, a comic book isn't just like your funny pages. It's an actual story that's a graphic novel that you can just see and it will play it out in front of you. And I think this is going to do wonders for that whole genre.
I think that between things like this, Vox Machina, Arcane, Castlevania, there are a lot of things that aren't anime that are coming out now for a Western audience that very much can show that, look, here is some incredible storytelling, and you don't need actors on screen to do it. You can have voice actors do just as incredible a job and have, you know, artists and illustrators do an incredible job and tell these really compelling stories and beautifully tell these stories. And honestly, I would argue that in some ways, fantasy lends itself beautifully to illustrated work because there is a certain level of hyperbole with magic that is so much more intriguing and beautiful and able to be done illustrated rather than on screen, live action. It's much easier to get your characters to work with magic and feel like the magic is real when everybody is just drawn in and whatnot than the challenges that come with having to do CGI magic that you see those problems sometimes in like Wheel of Time and in The Witcher, where you can see where the budget went in for those things that often comes at a cost to other areas. Whereas this awesome fight that we got with Keyleth's magic and Delilah's magic, that would have been just, I cannot imagine it being able to be pulled off and pulled off well live action. There's just no way it would have turned out anywhere near as compelling a fight if it had been, you know, live action. There's no way.
Yeah.
So I am very much hoping we're going to start seeing more adaptations of serious fantasy in a illustrated format, because I think that it will just translate so much better and in a much more cost-effective way. And then we can hire better actors for it and get excellent moving voice acting for all of these things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing. Like for me, the first iteration of The Hobbit that I ever watched was an animation version.
Yeah.
From it. And I absolutely loved it. Like, I mean, the animation style wasn't quite the style that I enjoyed, but it was still was a beautiful thing to have. But so I guess I'm very excited for the next episode. I just am really loving this, and thank you very much, Billy, for making this recommendation for this to be the next show that we do. It's been a fantastic trip.
You chose well.
Yeah, most definitely. So I think we've kind of dug that one down. Any last thoughts on the Feast of Realms?
That it was a 25-minute episode that was easy to talk about for 2 hours.
Yeah,
because it is that well done.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have gone longer just quoting it and discussing like this cool thing and that cool shadow, and it's a 25-minute animation. Yep. Who would have thought?
And that's
I want more information about Baltag.
Yeah, so do I. That's a payoff that has to come. But that's something that I have said before, and it really fits in for this story as well, is that I love it when, as a writer, I love it when someone sees a movie or a show or an animation or something like this that they really like, and they're like, oh, I love Scanlan, and I love like these lines that he has and these things that he has, or like Grog's little quips off to the background, stuff like that. As a writer, it's frustrating, but it's also amazing that the writers completely get kind of thrown out with the bathwater. Where it's like the lines become the characters, and it's like there's actually someone who wrote that, who sat down and put this together and created these lines and created this stuff. And the character's getting all the credit for it, which is fantastic. And that's the way it should work. But that's something that's always kind of blown me away, is that if something is written really well, the writer's forgotten about.
It is a beautiful thing, honestly. I enjoy, as a writer, when you can separate me from the work. I love it when somebody comes up to me and does I hate that Merrick did this thing, and I am so mad. Because I'm sitting there being like, well, good, you're not mad at me. You're upset about the fact this character did something, and you're invested enough to see how this pays out. You're invested enough in these things to be so fully immersed that I am no longer part of this story or this picture. that I have become invisible. And I like that. Because, yeah, it's really easy when the writer puts themselves in and makes it so that you're doing the like, ah, yes, the writer thought they were super fucking clever just there. They weren't. You know, like, so it is the like I agree that especially when it comes to like screenplays and whatnot, that writers really don't get the recognition they deserve. But it is a beautiful thing to see lines being done so organically that the characters come to life, whether it's, you know, cartoon, animated, or live action, where it can be just the I have forgotten that there's an actor there. I've forgotten that there's a writer there. It is just Grog being Grog, asking about which foot to go forward. You know, those kinds of things.
It just shows like that, like I said, it's a mark of really good writing when you can have when the writer can disappear. So yeah. All right, I love the 2 thumbs up. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's call the Legend of Vox Machina episode 3 after the roll episode 3 here. So thank you very much both for joining me and for breaking this down. I always love having these conversations. We're actually doing it on the Monday. I was afraid that we were going to have it tonight with all the tech issues that we had at the beginning. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, come on.
We did it on a Monday.
We did it finally. We got it worked out.
We got it. So
there we go. So I'm going to jump in and do the bad argument now, which is the straw man fallacy, which is one of my favorite bad arguments. So
I'm going to go and have my own dinner.
There you go. Sounds good. All right. Well, and also, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
That's one of those things. I made heart-shaped chocolate brownies.
That is adorable.
That was my favorite.
I got a box of chocolates a couple weeks ago from Composer as an early Valentine's Day gift.
Nice.
And ketchup chips.
Oh, nice.
Because that man knows exactly how to get right to my heart.
Oh, wow. That's the most Canadian thing I've heard today.
Have you had ketchup chips?
Yeah, they're amazing. I love them.
Exactly.
They are.
Exactly.
I can only get them in Montreal.
Oh,
Yeah.
Amazon can have your back on that.
There you go.
But they ship from Canada, so they're always a little crumbly
Smushed.
when they arrive.
Well, that's what I find amazing about ketchup chips is they're one of those things where like I can go for periods of time where I'm like, I'm not gonna, no, I don't want ketchup. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And then I get a bag or I come across a bag and I end up trying them. I'm like, why do I not eat these all the time? Yeah. And I'll go for like a week will pass and I'll get them another time.
Yeah. No, it is the things that I have missed as an expat. Definitely ketchup chips is one of the highest.
Yeah. And all dressed. I love all dressed as well.
We can get all dressed down here though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They come with a little maple leaf on them saying that this is this is a Canadian flavor.
Damn like, right it is.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So, chat, I'm just going to do a quick be right back thing, and I'll be back and we'll jump into the bad arguments. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, Billy and LJ. I greatly appreciate it. I'll be right back, chat.